eventually when we have merch for the podcast,
Yeah, we got to think about that.
how funny would it be if like our merch was like maybe like insider jokes or like slogans that you would only know if you listen
to the podcast? Right.
And I was like, what if we
Chicken
just had
chicken wing?
chicken wing, yeah. Or I was like a We Heart San Luis Obispo shirt. And that sounds like,
San Luis
but it has
Obispo.
like the ELP logo on the sleeve or the back, and then it's like someone's like, "Why do you have a San Luis Obispo shirt?" And you're like, "Oh, you got to listen to episode 18 of the ELP podcast to figure that out." You know, like,
I love that.
yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Enthusiastic Life podcast. I'm Brendan Walsh and I'm your host. With me as ever is...
Ryan Dewan, producer extraordinaire.
Are you allowed to call yourself extraordinary? I mean, is it bragging?
I feel weird saying it, which is why I always leave that part out.
Well, then you can say producer and I can add on the superlative.
Ryan Dewan, producer.
And he's a producer that is extraordinary. See?
There we go.
Better?
Yeah, better. Yeah.
Okay.
It feels weird saying it myself. Yeah.
No, we don't want to be braggadocious.
Yeah.
We're from Michigan. We keep things, quiet.
We're humble.
Right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Humble folk.
So this week on the episode, we have Dr. Seth Krupp, who is my neighbor, my youngest daughter, the father of my youngest daughter's best friend. He's also the vice chair of operations for the emergency department at Henry Ford Health here in Detroit. Seth's a longtime friend of mine. This was an easy and very fun conversation to have, and I loved learning about his background in medicine, what it was like going to a storied residency program, and then coming to Detroit, and the exciting things that are going on at Henry Ford Health, and the imprint that he gets to have as they build out a new emergency department as they are building a brand new building here in Detroit. And then there's some other fun stuff that we get into later, but this was a fun one.
Yeah, Dr. Seth was great, and I loved hearing his history as a med student, especially specializing in emergency medicine, which I didn't know was like its own specific field, but makes a lot of sense now, listening to him talk about it. And then the work that they did to design the new emergency room or new hospital that they're building for Henry Ford. I forget when they said it was coming. 2029. But it was just really cool to see like the wheels turn and like how much work they really put into interviewing emergency rooms all across the country and building something that is really going to make an impact for patients.
Yeah.
And for the people that work there and provide the care.
I was also not expecting helicopters in this episode.
So awesome, yeah.
Awesome.
Imagine wearing a jumpsuit to work every day.
Right?
Because you just don't know if you're going to be in a helicopter or not.
So cool.
It's also, I just love the irony in this intro, how, we're humble folk, because Brendan does do some bragging later on in the episode. But you have to get deep into the episode to get to that part.
All right. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you all for being here, and please enjoy this episode with Dr. Seth Krupp. Dr. Councilman Seth Krupp, welcome to the Enthusiastic Life podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Do you mind introducing yourself for our listeners?
Sure. My name is Seth Krupp. I am a physician in emergency medicine at Henry Ford Hospital, and I am Brendan's neighbor.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm also on City Council in Grosse Pointe City.
I always like to start with a little origin story. So do you remember how we met?
I actually was thinking about that today, and I remember exactly the first time we met was at the end of my driveway. We had just moved in, and we ran into you and Kelly, and our girls met for the first time, and I think they probably would have both been about 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
And I think they've probably been friends ever since. So, I remember that meeting well.
I remember when your house went on the market, and whenever a house goes on the market in your street, you're like, please let somebody cool buy the house, right? Like you're just hoping for okay, young family with kids would be great, but just don't be lame. So, but knocked it out of the park.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
I'm relieved. And my daughter gained a hairstylist out of it. So,
oh my gosh, can we talk about this for a second?
Yeah.
So our girls are 13.
Yep.
They're in 7th grade.
Yep.
And it's not every Monday, but it's close to every Monday.
Probably every other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the only day of the week that my daughter will get out of bed at 6 a.m. to do something, and she's down at your house and they get it done.
Same, like Charlotte will not wake up early, right? Like if she had her druthers, she'd probably sleep until noon, right?
Yes,
at 13.
100%.
But she'll mention on a Sunday night, hey, can you leave the door open so that Cece can come by and I'm going to do her hair before school. And she is up at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and she's doing Cece's hair.
I told Cece to tell her that she had the most fantastic hair at the choir concert yesterday, and she has Charlotte to thank. So she's pretty good at it.
Well, who knows what you might want to be in her life, but she's working on that so far.
Yeah,
so
good.
We've got hair and nails down, like on lock, which I think is typical for a 13-year-old, I think.
Yeah.
So you're not only an emergency room physician, you're the medical director for the emergency rooms.
I was a medical director, and I'm now the vice chair of operations, which to our audience is probably not a huge difference, just kind of oversight of different scope of the work inside the ED and how we relate to the hospital, the health system. But I work really closely with daily operations and trying to make the place run as smoothly as an emergency department can in the chaos, and really love it.
Well, Henry Ford Health needs to update your website because your website still says medical director. So we need to get
that's a few years overdue.
The right title on there.
Sorry about that.
No, listen, I'm just trying to do the research in advance to be prepared for you. So, how and when did you want to get into medicine?
That's a good question. I think probably started off maybe a little bit in high school. I was a kid that wound up in the emergency department a lot. I don't know how, but my head usually found the ground, and I had stitches a number of times, and it was actually kind of the old style emergency department where your family physician would drive in and meet you at the emergency department.
Okay.
And my family physician was my neighbor, Dr. Murray. And so I always kind of admired Dr. Murray and the kind of way he handled things. And I guess as I went to college, I just really was a natural draw towards medicine in general, but emergency medicine just kept popping up in my life. And I met some people in the field, and it was kind of that way all the way.
So when you went to that school down south, for those who may not be listening in Michigan, that would be
Ohio State University. That's right. Sorry about that.
You had to throw that at the end.
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry.
Well, it's your thing.
Yeah,
it's your thing. So when you started, did you knew that you were pre-med like from the start, or
pretty close? I mean, I dabbled with a couple other ideas, but I was immediately volunteering in the hospital, and the first job I got as a volunteer was working in the emergency department. And immediately I liked the people, I liked the environment, and I don't think that I ever said, I want to be an emergency doctor then. But as I kept going through, I just kept running into those situations where I found myself in the emergency department, volunteering, doing research, meeting emergency physicians, and that just kind of really made me excited to go to medical school. And ironically, the show ER came out while I was in college.
Classic.
And I never watched it, but everybody was excited about it. So I can't say that that's why I went into emergency medicine, which was kind of funny. But medical school was pretty early fit for me in college, and I didn't really think too long or hard about doing anything else.
So you've said this a couple of times, and I'm curious. So we grew up, calling it the emergency room. You've been saying emergency department. Is that a specific change in the medical industry where it's no longer the emergency room, it's the emergency department?
Yeah, it is. I think that...
Because that show doesn't work anymore if it's emergency department, right?
Right. It's less cool sounding, isn't it? I think emergency medicine, and we call it that too, right? It's a specialty that developed probably in the early 70s and is recognized as a medical specialty. The idea of emergency room, ER, is really probably a remnant of the bygone days where it was just in a room where you went to when you had an emergency, and whoever was working there could have been any type of physician.
Oh, interesting.
Oftentimes trainees, but there weren't people that were specifically training in the specialty of emergency medicine. So emergency room was just kind of a space and a place emergency medicine, emergency department recognizes that it is actually a specialty, just like surgery, family medicine, internal medicine, all the other things that we, are probably more familiar with in our daily life of interactions with medicine. So I think people who work in the emergency department prefer to call it the emergency department.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Over the emergency room, but we still flip into that too.
No, but that's really interesting. I never would have thought of that, right? I mean, we just call it emergency room because that's what we've always called it. Yeah. But I mean, it's not a room. I mean, if anyone's been, they know that it is a department. It's a huge piece of the system, and it's good to know that there are specialists that spend their whole careers being the best at what they do for those moments.
And I spent, I trained at University of Cincinnati, which I don't want to fast forward, but that was the place where it was the first residency training program for emergency medicine. And I actually was just there about a month ago for their 55th anniversary of the founding of the specialty, which or I guess the first residency, not the founding of the specialty. I correct myself. And there, it's very much a point of pride and something that you don't say ER. That's almost like you're
talking about a television show, not what we actually do.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, nice. So then you go to just some small little school in the Midwest for medical school that people may or may not have heard of. Presidents may or may not have attended that university.
Yeah, I went to University of Chicago, and I really liked it there. It was unexpected. I initially had thought about staying at Ohio State, and then I applied kind of far and wide, and lo and behold, somehow I got into the University of Chicago.
That's awesome.
My brother was moving to Chicago as well, and he and I are very close and didn't get a lot of opportunities to live in the same city together. And so it was really a nice fit for me to move to Chicago at that time and get to spend some time being with my brother. And I had some other friends in Chicago and really loved my time there. It was a cool place, met a lot of people, and it was a unique medical school experience because it's actually integrated with the undergrad experience. So we were basically going to class right alongside undergrads as well, and really on campus and not kind of off at the medical center per se. So I really liked my time there. Very small classes and met a lot of great people and great friends there.
So how do you then end up at Cincinnati? And was that hard to do, knowing that it was the first to have that emergency department specialty? And I mean, was that a hard program to get into?
Well, my path there was a little circuitous. I stayed at University of Chicago for residency for 1 year.
Okay.
And I loved it there, but I was very tired of Chicago. And I had actually almost gone to Cincinnati the year before, but I met Julie, and we were just new relationship. So I wasn't quite ready to move to Cincinnati yet. I was kind of waiting around to see what was happening here. And Julie wasn't ready to move to Cincinnati. So I will say I had some buyer's remorse, though, and I was really looking over my shoulder not going to Cincinnati because I had rotated there. I loved it. My brother then lived in Cincinnati, so all the things, I'm like, man, I wish I was there. And
future wife, brother. But
out of all luck, Julie and I stayed together, obviously, and I was out at a bar in Chicago, as sometimes you're wont to be, and I ran into one of my favorite attending physicians that I had worked with at Cincinnati. He just happened to be there, and I said, man, I really am kind of bummed that I'm not in Cincy because I really liked it there. I said, if you ever heard of a spot opening up, just give me a call. Because once in a while people do drop out of programs or transfer. And a week later, I get a phone call from Kevin. And he says, listen, this guy's dropping out. He's changed his specialties. We have a spot.
A week later.
So there I drove down, interviewed, and rest is history. I finished the rest of my residency there. And Julie moved down there soon after, and it was a great experience. I loved it there. I love University of Chicago too, but it was just time for me to go.
Yeah.
And there were some opportunities in Cincinnati that were very cool and unique. The history of the program, but also we got to do a lot of helicopter EMS transport, which was very exciting.
Now, is that unique to Cincinnati, and how did that come to be?
I would say it's relatively unique.
And what's that like? I mean, not everyone gets, we see this in television shows and movies, but yeah, I mean, talk a little bit about what it's like doing that kind of work.
I will say those were some of the most exciting days. I mean, we had a unique model at that time. There are other training programs that have the residents fly on the helicopter to go do transports and pick up patients. I would say Cincinnati's was pretty unique in that we're in a pretty rural area. If you're around Metro Detroit and you're seeing a helicopter flying over with medical, usually it's a inter-hospital transport, which those can be very scary and challenging cases, obviously. But Cincinnati, given where it is, the only other trauma centers are 2-3 hours away: Dayton, Louisville. So anybody who's in between those things in those sites in a rural area, a lot of times the first responder is the helicopter. So maybe a local volunteer fire department will come to a bad accident, and they'll immediately call the helicopter to be deployed. And we were going out, during our shifts, we would wear a jumpsuit, you've seen somebody with like a pilot jumpsuit. We would wear those during our shifts, taking care of patients.
Just in case.
Carry a radio, and you would get toned out. Hey, we got Adams County, we got a motor vehicle accident. We're taking off in 5 minutes. So I would tell my attending, okay, these are all my patients. This is what's going on with them. I got to go up the elevator, get on a helicopter, and fly out and go pick up, land in a field, land on a highway, land, sometimes at hospitals, transporting. Maybe a small hospital had a patient too sick. But yeah, it was pretty exciting. I remember we picked up a guy one time. He was not a small guy, and we were right at the weight limit for the helicopter, and we picked him up from a very bad car accident. And I remember taking off and the helicopter just feeling like it was just barely clearing the trees. And it was really exciting. Took care of some very sick patients. Definitely saw some pretty unfortunate traumatic events for people. But it was cool to be there to help and bring skills and expertise to situations. So definitely some great memories flying.
Well, and also think that now they've got, all of these physicians that are going to spread around the country and the world who have this experience that can help out in those scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would always fly with the nurse, and the flight nurses were, they were amazing. They were really there to teach us how to take care of these patients, in a little tin can 2,000 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
Things could go wrong if you didn't know what you were doing, and they were doing it day in, day out, done thousands of flights. So they were great teachers for us as well, and it was really a really good time.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So how do you go from there to Henry Ford Health in Detroit?
That's probably not a long story. As Julie and I we loved Cincinnati, but we wanted to be closer to family, and we looked around. I think I always joke. Julie said, "Well, I'll live in Ohio, but I'm not living in Columbus with, we got to get out of your college life a little bit." And I said, "Well, I'll live in Michigan." I said, "But I don't know if I really want to live in Detroit," because I didn't know much about Detroit. But remember, it's 2008, 2009. There wasn't a lot of good news around here.
Right.
And so we went and looked at Cleveland. We went and looked at Ann Arbor. And
you were going to live in Ann Arbor?
Oh, that's another story. But but in between, we stayed with Julie's family and actually had a chance to spend more time in Detroit. And all of a sudden, I really opened my eyes, and I'm, seeing the river, the downtown, all the things going on here. I wanted to be in a big city. I wanted to work at an urban academic emergency department, and the location for families and everything else was great. And so I actually kind of half-hearted interviewed at the other two places because I really quickly set my mind on Detroit being a much better fit. And it was unexpected. And I'm so glad we landed here because Detroit has done nothing but gain leaps and bounds since we've been here. And I loved it from the beginning, and love it even more now.
Nice. So you've been with Henry Ford Health since 2009.
Yes.
Tell me about some of the changes that you've seen over that time. That's a long tenure, 16 years. And tell me about what you've seen change, and then also some of the exciting things that are going on at Henry Ford Health right now.
Okay. I think what drew me to Henry Ford was really the culture. I love that it's a medical group. We all work together. I tell people that the medical group is, it's kind of like a family. Sometimes we don't get along, but at the end of the day, we all have to go to holidays together, and we manage to sort it out. And, there is definitely a feeling of camaraderie there. There's definitely also, I think, a culture of doing the right thing for patients for the right reasons, and not so much focus on individual productivity, but also just more on quality outcomes and doing right things for patients. So that was really came through when I interviewed there. And my first boss, Dr. Gerard Martin, very positive person, very funny person. First day I went there, two things stand out. One is he told me that we were going to get a new emergency department by 2015. And that was, he thought we were, and we all thought we were. And that's why I'm still pinching myself that we're getting a new one now, because it's been, we've been trying to make this happen forever.
Yeah.
But the other thing was, I remember I pulled up to my interview, and I had a junky old Honda Accord, it was a little rusted out, and Gerard said, well, you should follow me. I'm going to drive you down Jefferson. I'm going to show you around a little bit. And I was kind of like, well, I'm at this car. I'm going to pull up. And he was like, Krupp? He's like, what are you driving? I was like, Honda Accord. He's like, what year is it? I'm like, 98. He's like, well, shit, I'm driving a 2006 Civic. He's like, you got a nicer car than I do.
That's awesome.
The minute he said that, and then I pulled behind him and followed him down Jefferson. He's got this, I don't know, it was probably his kid's college car. It's got about 25 skiing bumper stickers on the back of it. I'm like, I want to work for this guy.
Yeah.
And I never looked back. So, but you asked me something about how Henry Ford has changed. I think how it stayed the same is we have a kind of a close collegial culture that has remained. I think the health system has changed massively. I mean, Ascension is part of Henry Ford. We're now, 20 hospitals and freestanding emergency departments. We've modernized a lot. We've grown a lot. We're building a new emergency department now, finally, and we're really excited about that. So I would say, a lot of things have stayed the same. Medical group is still, functioning the same way and in positive. But the growth rate and I think the upsides of our health system have just kind of really rocketed in the last 5 years. So very excited about where we're headed.
So tell me about the new emergency department and what's that been like? I'm assuming as vice chair of operations, you're pretty integral in that process. What's it been like being able to have your thumbprint on building an emergency department from scratch?
It has been one of the most professionally fulfilling things I've been able to do, for sure. Probably the most professionally fulfilling thing I've been able to do. And we've only just begun. However, we were really lucky because a lot of people who build new emergency departments kind of get them prescribed to them. Okay, here's your here's your new emergency department because we're going to remodel what you have. We're going to add on to it. We're going to try to overhaul it and make it work. Or we're going to build a new building, but the building's not quite as big as what you would like it to be. But try to figure it out. We really were given, here's this huge square, and it's a square building. It's not a rectangle. It's not a, L shape or, anything awkward. A lot of hospitals kind of, they have to shoehorn things into the space. But the new Destination Grand site is a wide open book. The bottom of the hospital is just a giant, beautiful rectangle with open space. And we worked with some unbelievable architects, planners, healthcare experts to help us kind of guide the process. But they also gave us a lot of freedom to bring our own ideas about how we want to deliver care in the future. And they really worked with us to make that vision become a reality. We spent probably, several months before we even started getting serious about a final design. I visited probably close to 20 emergency departments. I went to University of Chicago, Cincinnati, Colorado, and every single other ER I could drive to from here. And just asking them the same questions, like, what do you love about your ER? What do you hate about it? And a couple things jumped out. One is that every single ER I went to, and I went out to DC as well, they're all doing the same thing. They're all full, and they're all trying to take care of patients in waiting rooms. And how they do that, ER doctors are just people that like to figure things out on the fly, but we are all kind of figuring it out the same way. Armchairs in the waiting room, people getting, pulled back one at a time, put back out to the waiting room, and none of us like it, right? Nobody wants to be taken care of in a waiting room or moved around. You want to get a room and be taken care of in a proper way that you think about how an emergency department should run. And we went to University of Colorado in Aurora, and I would say that they were doing it the best, is that they had a design that they had to make work for that kind of front-end care. And so we were really able to take all of those things and say, well, let's just accept the fact that emergency departments are going to be full. I hope things get better and more efficient, but they're going to be full. So let's design an emergency department that not only operates in an ideal circumstance where we're 80% full, but also operates when we're 100% full, but also operates when we're 150% full. How can we still take care of people, maintain their dignity and privacy, and maintain efficiency when we're red line? And so what we built, I think, is really kind of the next generation of an emergency department. And, if there's a nicer emergency department than the one we've designed, it either hasn't been built or I don't know about it yet. But it's going to be amazing. It's going to be really amazing.
And when is it scheduled to open?
2029.
Okay.
So, opportunity. It seems like a long time to wait. Our new ER is way overdue, or our current ER is way overdue. However, I think I've seen people get new EDs and not transform their culture and practice ahead of time, and it's really challenging just to say, I have a new house, now I have new habits. We're really working on the new habits now of getting providers to think differently, behave differently, staff the place differently to provide more efficient care. And when we actually are set up to do it well, I'm optimistic that we're gonna take off.
Yeah.
So, and our volume probably is going to take off too. So we'll see.
I mean, to have a blank slate that you can, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. And we took a lot of lessons. I mean, it's like, it was funny. Most of the ERs we went to didn't have a lot to say about what they liked about their ER. They all just wanted to tell us all the things they didn't like. And the number of things we learned from that was great. The number of things we learned from COVID to think about, okay, as a goal, we never want to have to put a tent up in front of our emergency department again and provide this, messy care that we had to do. So taking those lessons and the new realities of crowding that hospitals are dealing with has really been, our timing was good. Let's say if we built it 5 years ago, I probably would have a lot of regrets, and we'll see what the next 5 years bring, but I hope we got it right.
Nice. That'll be cool to see that come to fruition. I have to imagine it'll be a neat ribbon cutting when that's open.
Absolutely.
So, as a physician, as an emergency department physician, and I'm always curious about, you hear horror stories about residency, right? I mean, just the hours and the time. I mean, what was that like? Is it as brutal as as people portray to be, with long hours and exhaustion and your learning and your
yeah.
I mean, everyone thinks about Grey's Anatomy, right? Where it's like a room full of residents. And but I'm always curious what that experience is actually like.
I would say parts of it were pretty bad. But I think I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I made a lot of great friends, and you just get in it and you go. There's definitely a part when you look back and you think about how invested you were during that period of your life and not maybe growing other parts of yourself, and you were just doing work all the time or spending time with people you worked with in your social environment. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think I did have the benefit of probably right before my residency started, they came up with the new 80-hour work week rule, so you couldn't work more than 80 hours. And I don't think we could be on call for more than, I think it was 30 hours.
Okay.
Which I do remember a few of those days of being up 24 hours straight and still trying to provide care
Yeah.
I was up for 30 hours straight one time, still trying to provide care and like falling asleep at my desk while patients are like looking at me. And I'm looking back, I'm like, that's insane. Like,
Yeah.
imagine someone taking care of you and you see them like nodding off. So I think we've grown a lot as a field in general, that realizing that doesn't make sense. And although people like to say, oh, well, it was much harder when I did it. I think the residents still work really hard, but we also have more sane parameters around their work that recognize
makes
safe
sense.
learning and wellness.
So I'm curious, being an emergency department physician, you're there. I have to imagine it can be very chaotic. But I get the sense that you kind of thrive in those. I mean, when hearing about how you talk about residency and thriving in that kind of scenario. So, how do you manage those high stress situations? Right? I mean, not everyone's an emergency room physician. That it's not as actual life or death. But what are things that you do to calm down the chaos?
I think the best piece of advice that I've grown off of, that it's one of those pieces of advice that makes more sense the longer you do it, is nothing that happens to any of your patients is your fault. Nothing that happens to any of your patients is something you did to them. You are there to help them through this difficult situation and bring your skills to bring them out on the other side safely. There is almost a gut reaction when you see someone suffering or in a dangerous situation, that you get sucked into that adrenaline and are fearful for that person. And once you remove yourself from that and realize you are simply there to help, and you can help best if you are calm, then that light bulb for me made it a lot easier for what are really stressful situations. If any of my residents listen to this, they know I still get stressed out, and most of it's due to just cognitive load. If I hear too many facts, too many things, too many people need something, like at some point your brain just boils over.
We have children. We know how that goes.
Oh God, yeah. But I think that, at end of the day, you realize like this shift will end and the same problem will be here tomorrow, and I just am going to do my best until it's completion and figure out what I need to do better tomorrow. And that's, being able to remove myself from that feeling of trying to control everything maybe is really at the root of adjusting in the emergency department.
I love that. I mean, I think that's something that can be applied to any business, right? You find yourself in a stressful situation and stepping back and realizing, well, there may be something that you have done to get to that point. It's how you manage that moving forward and doing it in a calm way.
Yeah.
And being the tool to get it to the place where you want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
For the best possible outcome.
Did you just call me a tool?
No.
Okay.
Maybe.
Thanks, Brendan. I knew you'd do that at one point.
In the best possible way.
Yeah, great.
You use tools. You are not a
teasing.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Before I want to take a left turn, but before I do, are there any story? I mean, it's a delicate situation being a physician, right? You want to be respectful of patients in your situation, but any good stories of your life as a doctor that are good to share or allowed to share?
Yeah, I think, again, there's definitely the Hippocratic Oath part of things, that you don't utter the things that you see in an emergency department. And, we all know there's crazy stories, and we share those in a respectful way, and obviously always with full respect of a patient's privacy. A couple just physically amazing things I've seen long time ago is I actually saw, and I like to tell stories that have happy endings. And I once saw a guy who fell off a 3rd-story building in Chicago and landed on a wrought iron fence. He came in with a section of fence about 4 or 5 feet long, and the whole fence, they had to cut it apart. And he was...
Bring him in with it.
Yeah, and the fence had actually gone under his shoulder blade and out the top of his shoulder. He was totally awake and alert, and they literally took him to the emergency or the operating room, sedated him and, put him under anesthesia, pulled the thing out, and he was fine.
Totally fine.
It had gone under his shoulder blade, up out of his shoulder. It didn't catch any, major bleeding, nerves, nothing. He was in the hospital for a couple of days, went home and did okay. That was amazing. I remember that was kind of one of those ones where you never forget where you were when that happened. I see the one other story I can think of. I had a pretty cool experience about a month ago when I was back for the 55th anniversary, and I have a good friend who unfortunately suffered a heart attack and a cardiac arrest several months ago, and he made an amazing recovery. He's doing great. He's back to normal, function and back to life. Thank God. I'm so happy about that. And that, to me was one of those moments where I was like really proud of what I do, because someone I know has done that, has helped someone else in that position, or, maybe residents I've trained have saved someone in that position. And to know that the good that comes out of that situation and seeing it with someone is just so different. But what made it very cool is when we went down to the reunion at University of Cincinnati, and my friend actually had the cardiac arrest in Cincinnati, and I started asking him questions. I was like, well, who's the doctor that took care of you? And come to learn that it was one of the residents at University of Cincinnati and one of the attendings, and I got to meet them. And I mean, I was just overcome with emotion because I was so grateful. And it was someone that trained at the same place I did, so it made it special. But what really made it special is that they didn't even know that he had survived. They knew that he had survived to go off to the cath lab and get hospitalized, but it's just the nature of ERs. Next patient, next shift, next day, and they were so excited to learn that I knew him and that he was doing well, and it was really cool. It was really cool. So I got to remind him that the ED doctors saved him first, and then the cardiologist got to save him again. But sometimes the ED doesn't get that recognition, because when people are in that moment, everything's a blur.
Yeah.
And the first thing that they do when they wake up is the people that have been taking care of them for maybe weeks on end after they came out of an emergency department. So it was cool to give them that recognition, and really it was a good full circle moment for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. So my left turn. Okay. So you are a councilman for the city of Grosse Pointe.
Yes, I am.
And we appreciate the service that you do for our fair city.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
But have to talk about one of your greatest passions outside of your family, which is trees.
Oh, no. Okay.
So if you don't know this about Dr. Krupp, one of his current projects is replenishing the canopy in the Grosse Pointes. Am I wrong in how I said that?
That's fair assessment.
So for those who have not been in Grosse Pointe, it is a beautiful city and has a lot of large old trees, some of them 80 to 100 years old, right?
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah.
And sometimes they fall down. Sometimes they come down in storms, and then you have a hole in the canopy. So tell me, where did your love and appreciation for trees and replenishing that canopy, where'd that come from? Because I think that's pretty cool.
That's a good question. I do love trees. My wife's probably laughing at me somewhere right now.
As most of our wives do at some point.
She's like, oh God, not about the wood again, Seth, please. So she jokes with me, but I grew up, my dad always was transplanting trees. We'd go to the woods and dig a tree up, and my dad's whole yard is populated with trees that I think most of them he dug up from somewhere and transplanted into the yard, and now they're, big old oak trees and maple trees, and I guess I always enjoyed doing that with him. But over the years, I guess when I came back to Grosse Pointe and I had suppressed all of my other hobbies through medical school and residency, I needed a little something to do, and I like to work outside. I always have. I did landscaping as a kid growing up for a long time, and it was just something I naturally drew towards because it let me work outside. I love trees, and I started noticing, like, wow, what's going on here? We we are losing trees faster than we're replacing them. And so I really kind of threw myself into getting involved in helping raise money to plant trees, planting trees myself. I have an annual tree sale that I do with a friend, Rick Whitney, and a couple other folks. And so we've been doing that now. We've probably sold, 100 to 150 trees a year for 3 years. And so that's just something I love doing. I love giving friends trees and, you name it. So
if there's ever a new tree on my block, I generally know where it came from.
Yeah, I tell people, if you need a tree, call me. And I think I have 75 trees on order for the spring. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think the city is doing really well. We have probably 300 or 400 spots where we could plant trees.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is. But we are in the process of launching a new campaign to raise money to plant 250 trees in commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the nation. And so we're excited about it. Yeah, we're actually doing something tonight at City Council.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if I told you about this, but a tree blew over on Washington, and Brian, our former forester, who's since sadly passed away, he and I noticed what a remarkable tree this was.
Oh, this was the one that was in the newspaper. What was the diameter?
We cut. It was interesting because it's not that much bigger than elm trees you see that are 100 years old, but this was an oak tree, and when we counted the rings, the tree was 250 years old. So the tree was there before anything you see in that community was there.
Right.
Native peoples and the French settlers were there when that tree began. So we cut
Which is amazing.
Big section off of it, and we've got a really nice glass piece over top of it, and then I've outlined all the timelines of Grosse Pointe and its development, settlement, major milestones, and we're going to display it in City Hall. So
that's cool.
So we're unveiling it tonight, and we're going to dedicate it in Brian's memory, who was the city forester for quite a while. So I'm pretty excited about it. I worked on it with Brian, so it means a lot to me, and it's gonna look great at City Hall. So
that's
very
cool.
excited about it.
So speaking of trees, I can't let you go without talking about one of my favorite events of the year, which often falls in with my birthday, which is the Lumberjack Fest.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the Lumberjack Fest and how it came to be, and tell the audience what it entails?
Okay. Well, it's about what it sounds like. It is always the same weekend. I try to put it on the coldest weekend of the year, the first weekend of February, intentionally. It's only outdoors. For those who get a little chilly, they're allowed to go in the garage, but not for too long. And it's mostly feats of strength, skill, and bravery regarding axes, wood, chopping, a log toss, and fellowship and food. And so it's just something I've kind of naturally pulled friends from the neighborhood, some friends from work, and it's grown over the years to be an annual event. And I look forward to it every year. I spend a lot of time planning it and really love it.
So we get axe throwing for score.
Yep.
We get log toss for distance.
Yes.
And then we get wood splitting.
Yes.
So like golf, the fewest amount of chops,
That's
the
right.
highest points.
Yeah. Don't forget the games of chance, the burning hollow log,
That's right. We have
and a couple other odds and ends. But yeah.
Seth has a cowboy cauldron, which, if you're not aware, is a massive fire pit that's held up with 3 legs, and the cauldron hangs by a chain. And one year we had a hollow log that we put around the chain, and then we placed wagers to see at what time it would burn through and fall apart.
It's way more fun than it sounds, and it's probably going to be an annual installment. So it's amazing how much people are excited about that.
And there's a Lumberjack Fest champion every year whose name is engraved and put on an award.
Yes, there is.
Do you know anyone in this room that's on that trophy?
Well, I'm not. I can tell you that.
But you're the host.
I'm the host. I have to walk by the trophy every day in my garage and see my name not on there. It's my motivation. But your name is on there.
It is, and only once. But I'm still a little salty. That's only once. It could have been twice.
You did win in a convincing fashion. So
It was a good year. It was a good year. It was a highlight.
I hope you make another showing this year.
Oh, of course. I can't miss it.
All right, good.
I mean, the only time I ever miss it is I just have to come late if it's after my actual birthday.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
One last question I ask all my guests before I let you go. What is something that is bringing you joy right now?
Oh, geez. I will just have to say, yeah, I can't say trees, Brendan. I just want to say trees. No, I'm just joking. I think what brings me joy, and I guess this is a standard answer, but it is really just seeing my kids come into their own, the personalities and the people they're becoming. That definitely brings me joy. And the other things, I think that, what brings me joy, you said Lumberjack Fest. I like developing traditions and memories with friends and family. And I think that those things, as I get older, I realize how important those are. So I spend a lot of time thinking about those and planning them and really making them special, memorable things. So those are, I guess, the things that I like to focus on outside of work that kind of keep me going.
Awesome. Well, Seth, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Thank you so much to Seth for being here on this episode. In my defense, it was less bragging about the Lumberjack Fest as much as it was needling my friend that I had won and that he had not. I had to, this is what friends do. We just kind of have to rub it in just a little bit. And so I felt like this was the opportunity for me to just... You gotta let him know. Just so much fun. So great having him here. We hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you like the podcast, if you like the episode, please give us a rating, a like, a share, a thumbs up wherever you might be listening or watching. Share us with your friends. Send a link to someone who enjoys podcasts and let them partake in the enthusiastic love. We're just trying to spread good words and language that I can't speak today. Spread positivity and enthusiasm and great stories around, and hope that you enjoy this and hope others can enjoy it as well. As always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.